Alright, so out here, y'all. Wanted to talk to y'all the day after these protests and shit been going on. Not exactly sure what I'm gonna say. Tried to jot down shit that I wanted to talk about, but I'm just gonna try to riff it for real. Just like talk about what's been going on out here. One, it's important to document this shit for people who are gonna see this in the future, to see hopefully we're not in this same predicament. We not gonna be the way that people have been moving recently, and like a lot of people have been saying and feeling like this is like really like the last straw. Like, I don't know, I felt something changing me over these last couple of days where it's like I've been called to action more so in a way where I'm now experienced in I've been trained to marshal and help lead some of these kind of protests, and cannot like just leave people to be out there undefended and without leadership to step up, and then knowing what that means to step up and be a leader in those moments, to feel the energy in a crowd and know what is needed at that time. Shit, that's gonna be my last point, remember. But like, there's been a lot, man. Like, the first thing I want to talk about is like this peace versus violence. Like, we hear back here with MLK, Malcolm X, the whole argument again, like, should we be tearing up the streets, fucking it up, or trying to peacefully protest? And honestly, the way I'm seeing it is both, yo. It's like, I'm out here during the daytime, you know, heckling, talking to, staring at, breaking down, and really trying to understand these cops and these officers, because they, at the end of the day, are human. And I'm realizing that by seeing them up close and in person, and just staring at them for a few seconds and just being like, not even a few seconds, like literally a few minutes. I would stand there for a few minutes and look at them and break them down to the shoes, the way they wore the uniform and shit, the look in their eyes. Some of the first officer I talked to on Saturday, and I saw the conflict, the internal conflict, and it just made me realize like how human we all must be, even if you're gonna put on this uniform. And I was saying that to him, I was like, why are you on this side? Like, you don't even want to be here. You don't even support this. Like, why are you here? You're internal conflict. You're a black man that's standing for the wrong side. What are you doing? And, you know, he started crying. And that shit, that's just different, man. It's a weird world where, like, you know, the computer animation and shit is supposed to be going on this way. Like, cops are a fucking system, they're robots. And I saw the glitch in the Matrix for a second. It's just like people that know that they're human, who know that they can't just follow orders, and are now at a crossroads within themselves. And that's one thing that I think it's the benefit of the peaceful protest. It's like able to invoke that in people and make them see like we're not monsters, obviously, and they should already know that by now. And then the violence is like, yeah, we not monsters, obviously. And I've heard many arguments, like, you know, I think I'm supportive of it in ways, because I've seen how over history, you know, power has not giving up its power without some kind of command. And, you know, usually power follows money, as far as we've seen in this country especially. And so when banks get broken, when walls and, you know, especially the city business districts all get hit, then that's when people really like, we gotta make sure we start answering this shit, or this is gonna keep happening. And it's like, yeah, it will keep happening, because there's some people who are really impoverished who really need that wealth transfer. That's what people calling it. And it's like, yeah, it's a wealth transfer. People need that money to get passed back in a different way. But we've been needed that. And like, yeah, true to the points are going around, there may be better ways, whatever, but that's not the fucking point right now, is that no one's been listening, and people got so much unbridled rage that you gotta express it. Like, how can you expect people to keep that kind of anger in? And like some people saying, like, this is the first time they've ever really felt alive in the American system, to be able to say fuck the property, fuck the capital, and let's care about the people. If you're more concerned about stores and buildings than people, that's the issue. And so, like, we was debating that at so many of these different protests, because some of the, just make sure we still going. So yeah, some of the, we were still debating at our own protests, because we had to figure out, like, we had internal conflicts within our own groups and shit. And it was like, people who lived downtown, who was out in the streets, some gang members, some like college students, the hippie, white, socialists, everyone ran the whole gambit, right? Like, everybody's out here for Black lives, except for conservatives and racist motherfuckers. And but it got to the point where it's just like, even the gangster niggas and shit was like, yo, we don't want y'all out here in these streets. We don't want y'all out here representing or, doing this or that. And, I feel that. I get that. Because, like, in my city, I wouldn't want some rando kind of taking my space and, taking back my own city. And especially in the city of Baltimore, there's a lot of outsiders. Well, especially like in a city like New York, there's a lot of outsiders. But that's a diverse place, and so it's hard to even tell. But in a city like Baltimore, it's like the black people are the natives. They're the people who are downtown, like we say Baltimore with the D and all that shit. Like that's the natives. That's the people that need to be highlighted and the people who need to be listened to on the ground level when it comes to like any city, the people who are being the most affected by these cops, because they're the ones who have to see them every day. They're the ones who have the most built up anger, and they're the ones who, like, there's been a lot of stuff going around saying like a lot of the agitators are white people who've been sent in paid and shit, and that's very true, and that's always happened. It's happened all since civil rights and shit, and it's still happening now, no doubt. And also, I'm sure, and I know some niggas might to go fuck some shit up. So like, it's not like we not fucking shit up too, but to say, pointed as to say that like, we need to fuck shit up. Like, the black people that have been affected by this the most, like, need to let that anger out somewhere. Like, their lives have been disregarded for property and capital for so long that it's like, fuck property and capital, I'm gonna take this shit back and I'm gonna let it support my life. And I don't know, I was just in this group and the cops stepped back and we was handling ourselves for a minute, and that was the beauty of it too. It's like, yeah, we're getting heated and escalated, we might be about to fight, but we got the tools and resources right here to handle our own conflicts. Like, I'm a mediator, I can step in and talk to the people. They is handling themselves before I even need to do all that. So it's just like, we have people who have these different skills who can do this shit to protect our own people. And we have community leaders who will step up to make sure that people and their neighbors, everybody will stop hurting each other. And that's the issue, is like, if we don't depend on ourselves enough and we defer our own power out, and that's why we feel powerless, that's why we become powerless in certain situations, because we've deferred our power to this other entity that was created to destroy our life and capture us and bring us into slavery, which is supposed to be an institution that's done, but we're still living in it. And like, saying a lot of shit. So like, I'm just thinking about last night. My knee is still swollen, so I have to take a second, because I've been running and standing and walking all over the city for these 2 days, and take the next day to try to recuperate and then get back out there. And apparently I put too much weight on my left foot, so this is something I'm gonna have to change. But like, yeah, it's like even when I run up in those situations, like I get mad. And I'm like, I see someone talking to a cop like last night. I see this these two young boys talking to two young black boys talking to a cop, and then kind of overhear some of the shit he's saying. It just sounds like he's saying some bullshit. So, and granted, we went into that crowd to be more so low key because we was just doing fuck shit, and then came back into the crowd, was like, alright, let's be low key now. Hear this nigga talking. I'm like, nah, nigga. So that was pretty hard. But you know, what I want to say about that too is like I have to take that moment to acknowledge too, like someone said afterward to me, like, you know, sorry if I cut you off, and I realized I had to apologize to little man, just to be like, I had to apologize to you because I cut you off too in the beginning, and like you was saying, you was going off on him. I mean, and he said, you know, I said my piece, whatever, but like really it's like, you know, that kid, he's young, he looked like he's from the city, and that's the thing too, when I came up to the cop, it's like, y'all, so like you, and this is a lieutenant, and he's the only one talking, and he's talking to people because he's a lieutenant, and it's infuriating that no one else is talking. All cops should be able to talk, and that's the issue, is like, he's like, you see, they see my example, they see I'm able to do this with you, right, and we're able to like build this rapport, whatever, and it's like, they need to be able to do this shit right now, and they need to be able to answer for the shit that they do, because you saying like, I can't talk about what's going on in his head, I can't control it. It's like, why not? You lieutenant, you supposed to be able, like, you say, if you say a command, this is literally what he says, like, you just make the command. You don't ask them to respect or do this or that. You command it. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit. Now, how do you fucking make that shit go into effect and make sure they follow through on that? How do you hold them accountable? So who's going off? And it's just, yeah, man. Like, you can't just be bullshitting. Your man's on the side can't talk, and they got to be trained in the same way to handle and talk to people. Shit like that. If every cop could talk like that to people, and like, let's say all those cops were out there, no guns, and we're just there to talk to people, like to hear our concerns and shit, and hear how we felt, how different that shit would have been. But you know. And bring back to the point that like I needed to be bringing the focus back to like that young black kid who lives out here in Baltimore City. For me, you know, it's like, I mean, this is my city too right now. Like, I wish I could be home, New York, turning it up with y'all and like burning shit or whatever the fuck, or just standing with y'all and like just knowing that like niggas is safe for real. Cause that's what I'm doing out here, is I gotta make sure niggas are safe, and that's like, you know, just sharing these tips and tools, everything that I can, that I got, and things that I've been blessed with, to make sure all my people are prepared, because it really does feel like wartime, and like I'm just trying to do my piece to make sure my people stay safe, my people stay alive, literally, and to do that, like, you know, I'm akin to like those young black boys, and like when we was walking up to the protest in the beginning of my little group, you know, one of our homeboys from around the corner, he's doing his live video, and he's like, look at all these protesters, nigga, da da da. And you know, that's the thing, it's like, don't be a colonized intellectual. Frantz Fanon, read it. But like, don't be a colonized intellectual and start like distancing yourself from niggas because you go to school or whatever this shit. Like, I stood right by my mans, and I've always stood by my brothers, like, always stood by my niggas. Like, we've always just been out here, and like, niggas will try to test you, especially if you a black dude who also go to school, and then whatever, you getting your education for, you know what your reason is. As long as you still serving your people, make sure you still serving your people. And then after that, don't be a bitch. You know what it was like in your head if you grew up in a hood like that. And so niggas is gonna test you. He's gonna come around and be like da da da. I'm gonna be like, you know, I support you, brother, and all that shit. I don't even need to say that. I'm just like nodding my head. I'm like, yeah, cause I know I ain't the antagonist. I know I ain't the one that he needs to be fighting against. So why the fuck do I need to distance myself? And that's the thing too. It's like we really need. I had my revolution in this like what 2-3 years ago, where it was just like, I'm all them niggas that like I'm the theater nigga who's performing. I'm that artist nigga who's saying shit. I'm that like musical nigga who performed at Rockefeller. I'm that basketball nigga who playing at the park. I'm that nigga who smoking weed at the park. I'm the nigga who doing all this dumb fuck shit. I'm doing good shit. I'm all the spectrums. And that's the thing, they can't separate us. They can't see us as just, oh, these are the good ones, these are the bad ones. This one's educated, this one's not. Whatever the fuck classification differences it is, it's like that's how they've been killing us all this time. Because they don't even really care, they don't think that deep. But, we gotta stand united. I gotta be able to stand next to my brother who may be in a gang or whatever it is. He might just be in a tight spot, whatever his situation is, and trust that, I know I ain't a bitch, and I know I'm gonna have to support him, and so that's it. That's it. And so, stand for your, like, even if you a black person who went to school or whatever, like separate, like you went to a different state, you know your result, what you gotta fucking do for your people, and so keep doing that shit, and like don't be afraid to stay connected with our people, man. And we need that. We all need that. They need to be able to see that, like, once you go through college and shit too, that shit don't change you. You need to see that, like, you can go to college and still be a real nigga. And real niggas don't need to be gangbangers. And in fact, a realer nigga don't gangbang. And all this other shit. I mean, gang don't, but you get what I'm saying? And so, yeah. And like, just to wrap up that point before moving on to today, what I really wanted to say was to like all my artists, all my peers that are like, all my black men out there, especially, just specifically my black men, my brothers. I was standing at the end of the night last night. It was like late, and some people were saying why I still here. They were like talking about like gangster people wanted to college, niggas to go home and shit. And I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle. Always kind of feel like I land in the middle somewhere. And I'm like, I hear you, my man. And like, they should be here. The white bodies like that should be in the front lines to take the hits and shit. Like and me as like a black man who's had the privilege to be connected to certain like resources and shit, like if I have a legal bail support number on my arm, like I'm gonna be there, bro. If I got food that I know I can help out a nigga, if I know I got training or whatever that can help out a nigga, I'm gonna be there. So I have to be here. And so all that to say, like, I was in the lines, and at a certain point, like, there was points where I was like in the front lines, but this really late, shit started getting mixy, throwing tear gas, people getting split up. I didn't know where my niggas was for a second. It was just crazy, and having to choose to, like, close to the end of the night, people were losing energy, and these 3 black women was in the front lines, and I'm like in the second line, and I'm hearing them, each of them saying something different, but they're constantly just chanting, saying something different. Not even chanting, just saying something different to the cops and just appealing to the humanity. And it's just like, if they could stand in front of me, like, and not even to say standing in front of me, but they're standing on the front lines, and it happens to be in front of me, that like, I can't, like, we need to be out here on the front lines, like, not only like just causing havoc or whatever shit, but also just directing niggas, like, we the next generation up. Like, y'all know who I'm talking to, like, my artist niggas, my niggas who are really out here spreading the word and like doing your craft. Like, we have a message to share, and it's powerful. In that moment I stepped up. I had written some shit from the protest the night before. It was just a spoken word piece, and I said something, so many fucking names to remember, History used to be my worst subject. Now I remember why. Because I reject stories filled with lies. My ancestors were not objects until they died. They protected their prospects so that I could rise. Instead, cops slide. They do not see you in front of their eyes. Instead, another 9 to 5. Until another nigga clocks out. And went on in that way. Until saying essentially, it's too many fucking names. Told them that they could kill me that day. They intend to do the deed to be brief, but know that my power remains mine. So many names to remember, but their spirits remain in our minds. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Freddie Gray, Philando Castile, Tamir Rice, Antoine Rose Jr., Michael Garner, Eric Brown, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, goddamn, there's too many fucking names. And people started, feeling invigorated, and they started chanting the names and getting that back out there. But I'm telling you, y'all, after they chanted the names, I went in again for like another 4 lines, and I was saying lines like, so what do you need, officer? I should not falter or retreat. And I kid you not, like, I was just getting in on these niggas. Like, kid you, like, seconds later, that's when they lunged, bro. Like, I was in the front. I put myself in the front because I was like, I can't just be in the second line. I can't be, I gotta let people know, like, this is what we gotta say this shit. And people gotta feel the energy. And that's the power of our poetry and our art and our music. It's like, when we're at these protests, we can be peaceful, man. That, like, the power of a peaceful protest with a powerful ass poem that isn't really peaceful is hella powerful, yo. And it showed. They buckled, and I could see the anger in some of them niggas. One of them was laughing. The one that lunged at me, the fucking shit, man. I was just like, you really couldn't let a nigga finish his poem? Like, goddamn. And that's like, that shows you what they really fear is us motivating our people. They probably would have tried to chalk it up as me trying to incite a riot or some shit. What I was doing was giving people the truth and giving them words to understand what the fuck they're living through right now. And that's why they felt invigorated. That's why they felt the power. That's why they started shouting those names. And that's what we need to do as artists. We need to be making a song right now that's about this movement. We need to be putting our words, our anger, our emotions into these songs so that other people have ways to verbalize how they're feeling right now. That's it. That's the call to action. My black artists, niggas, my friends, y'all know who you is. We need to be going to work and shit. If we need to collab, we need to collab, or whatever it is. But bro, you need to be doing your shit. I'm gonna be doing my shit, and like, let's all come together. And also, like, we need to make sure we support our whole community, bro. Like, I've been seeing a lot of people out here doing their work, and like, I'm really proud. I'm really proud, like, to see so many black men that been willing to share their story, and like, use it as a trope. Too many rap niggas, too much rap saturation, all this shit. No, everybody needs to be rapping. Everybody needs to be saying the fuck they need to say, because we got too many fucking stories to tell for the niggas to be silent right now. For niggas to not be becoming artists, to not be standing in their power, to not be standing in their words. So that's what I'm gonna say on that. And then Blackout Tuesday. So there's just a lot of shit going around. People telling people what to do, what not to do, and this is in support of the movement, and this is not. Honestly, my nigga, who the fuck is leading the whole movement? Who the fuck has the right to tell us this? All I respect is black people right now. Black people voices. And yes, in response to that, there's like been black people telling black people even that, like, or really seems like it's directed at like non-black people, but I just want to go on and say that, like, in whatever way that black person needs to express themselves right now, just let it happen. like, let black people express themselves in a way that they need. And even in me hearing other black, like, leaders saying that, you know, the thing that they was really saying is that the Blackout Tuesday is really not enough. And that's where I agree. Blackout Tuesday is not enough. There has to be the next thing. There has to be the donating to the Minneapolis, Michigan Freedom Fund, and needs to be donations to Organizing Black. Shout out, like, check out my people. I'll leave the tag in this. Needs to be like, you need to be following like organizations like the Movement for Black Lives, so you can know what's going on. Like, for people who are really organized on like a national level for black people. Like, so if you want to keep up and be plugged in that way, Movement for Black Lives, we'll tag them too. Yeah, man. But like, I'm just seeing a lot of just so much anger going around. People shouting at each other to tell people what to do, what not to do, and it's honestly just making me like really annoyed and kind of go like stir crazy. And so I just felt like I need to get on this vid to say a bunch of my thoughts, and this is my expression of black pain. People are really not safe right now, man. And like, and it's dangerous to even speak up, because we've seen over history what happens to people that speak up. But that's even more reason why it's important to document and capture this shit. And so, shit, if you never see a nigga again, you know why. It's Buddha, you know what's good.